A woman on TikTok is going viral for announcing her plans to move to Afghanistan for her husband, who she has only met once in person. Now, to anyone who knows anything about Afghani policy or leadership, this should be immediately causing huge concerns, as well as, of course, extreme confusion more than anything. I don't think this is the type of video I plan on being too jovial in any way, shape, or form, because we're going to be talking about, in my opinion, the most evil national regime in modern history. That, of course, being modern Afghanistan under the leadership of the Taliban. I'm not saying that it was amazing amongst the war with America, but ever since the embarrassing withdrawal, it's not a controversial thing to say that things have gotten a lot worse under the rule of the Taliban, who very quickly established themselves once again, pretty much the second that America withdrew. But anyway, that part of history might be explained a little more throughout this video. I actually want to show you the account that we're going to be talking about first. So this is her here. Her account is called Alex Sunny. Follow me on my journey to Afghanistan to live with my husband. This is a relatively new TikTok account. They've not got that many videos, but recently they've found massive virality in talking about this story where they are going to meet their long-distance relationship husband, who they've only met once in person, by the way, and they met over Snapchat. Really not making a great case for Snapchat, by the way, which I have been notoriously against on this channel. Now, of course, we're going to be covering this in its entirety, essentially. I'm also going to be going over corroborating Afghani policies under the Taliban as they become relevant throughout this video. There's a lot of misinformation and propaganda that this girl, as well as a lot of influencers, are spreading about Afghanistan that I frankly find irredeemably disgusting. I think it would also be just as disgusting almost if this account was being used for rage bait as well, but despite that being such an awful possibility, I am still hoping to God that this account is in fact just rage bait. Because even though I'm sure we can all agree that that would be a horrible way to use the internet, incredibly immoral and damaging, it would still be the best case scenario here. Like, the worst thing that could possibly happen is that this woman actually goes through with it and moves to Afghanistan to live with this guy. Now, we'll talk about Afghanistan and just how oppressive it is in just a moment, but I want to show you a TikTok of her talking about how she actually met him first.
So we actually met on Snapchat in July of 2024, and we didn't meet IRL until December of 2024. So at first I wasn't actually looking for a relationship, but we exchanged WhatsApp numbers anyways. I'm a truck driver, so of course I could yap all day long, and he was just really somebody that was easy to talk to. When I say talk, I mean we talked for 12 to 15 hours a day, like probably even more than that. So even though we had only been talking for around 5 to 6 months before we met IRL, it felt like I was not meeting a stranger, honestly, because we had spent so much time getting to know each other over the phone through conversation that I felt like I knew him forever when I met him. So at this point, it has been 2 years that we have been long distance. Well, not a full 2 years, but almost 2 years. And I am so ready to be with him, whether it's here in the US, whether it's in Afghanistan.
One thing I probably should make clear off the bat is that nothing I say in this video is necessarily going to reflect horribly on the guy that she is allegedly dating, and that is allegedly this fucking amazing person who I think she says he's a UNICEF worker and he cares a lot about these, causes that a lot of us care about too. So from everything I'm hearing, he sounds like a relatively normal person, which obviously normal people do exist in Afghanistan. However, the existence of normal good people does not eliminate just how dangerous and oppressive and horrible the environment is for women. Like, it's ranked by every human rights organization, the UN, Amnesty International, as the worst place on the planet to be if you are a woman. And that's not even currently. I'm talking in modern history. Current Afghanistan is the worst place you could possibly be if you are a woman. I'll show you guys a Women, Peace and Security Index that sort of measures how safe it is for women, of course, across the globe. I'll finish this video first, though.
So, and this is just my opinion, I think more women in the US should get out of the box and date more men outside the US, marry more men outside the US, whatever you want to do. Because men, I feel like, they're just not it. Like, here in the US, the red pill content, the 50-50, like, I just could never understand that. And I feel...
See, this is the fucking thing, though. Like, if you think 50-50 is bad, if you think that splitting the bill 50-50 being normalized in America generally is like a bad thing, then I have no idea what you think women are treated like in Afghanistan. The way that the Taliban treats women makes Andrew Tate and Myron Gaines look like fucking saints. And that is not me over-exaggerating. I am being deadly serious. So if you really think that the red pill content is bad, then you either have no knowledge of the country that you are planning to move to, or you're rage baiting, which is also fucking disgusting, dude. It's pathetic as well. Like, come on. This is what you're doing with your life. You want to rage bait people into thinking that your life is in mortal danger. You want to take advantage of the goodwill of the people on TikTok who really genuinely care about the safety of you and every other woman on the fucking planet, particularly those in Afghanistan.
Are, like, from other countries. They've been raised with different values around family, partnership. Obviously, though, every relationship is different. Every man is different. This is just my personal experience, and taking a chance on somebody that I would have never thought I would actually fall in love with was the best decision I ever made.
Jesus. Okay, I want to make one thing clear as well. There's nothing wrong with falling in love with an Afghani man. Like, that shit's great. If you live in the US and you end up falling in love with someone who isn't American or from the USA, that's great. That's awesome. Good for you. If you want to move country, that's great as well, you know? If you fall in love with a Swedish guy and you move over to Sweden, then that's brilliant. Well done. But there are some countries that you shouldn't move to no matter how in love you are. Afghanistan is at the top of that list. Love is a beautiful thing. You'll do a lot of things in pursuit of it, but love is never that worth it, trust me. This is the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace and Security, and this is the Women, Peace and Security Index. There's a variety of policy priorities that it has and research methods, and doing so they've managed to sort of rank 181 countries in terms of how peaceful or safe they are for women. Number 1 being Denmark, a lot of the Nordic or sort of Scandinavian countries. Now, of course, there are some questionable things amongst the top and middle rankings, like you've got the UAE above the United Kingdom and the USA, for example. The UAE will, of course, be safer in terms of like crime on the street. So if you're a woman, you're probably safer walking out at like 2 a.m. in the UAE as opposed to the UK. However, in terms of like policy and laws and how you're governed, the UK and the USA are probably less oppressive than the UAE. So yeah, there is like room to question some of the rankings here, but when we get to the very bottom of the list, that room becomes a lot more scarce. But anyway, let's try finding Afghanistan, shall we? Got Argentina, Grenada, North Macedonia. You got Greece over there. What a country. Going down. Yep, let's keep going. Not found it yet. Interesting. I guess we gotta just keep going. Yep, nothing yet. Let's just keep going. No problem. You got Congo here at 140 out of 181. That means there are 41 countries less safe for women according to the Georgetown Institute than the rape capital of the world. Because that is what Congo is widely recognized as. I mean, what the fuck does that say about the world, eh? Here we go. We've gone all the way down to 180. There's one more, see more, and then boom, Afghanistan with a staggeringly low index. Women employment is the lowest on the planet. Women's financial inclusion is also the lowest on the planet. Women's cell phone use is also the worst on the planet. It is the country with the most absence of legal discrimination against women. Women in Afghanistan have the least access to justice worldwide, the highest rate of maternal mortality, the highest rate of intimate partner violence, the highest rate of political violence targeting women, and a whole host of other very specific policies that we will of course be covering in this video. I did manage to find the first TikTok on this woman's page of her acknowledging this dude's existence. You can see a lot of repeat pictures in this video because, just to reiterate, they only met once. They've met one time in their entire lives. And the reason that she needs to move over to Afghanistan, well, she doesn't need to. The reason that she is insisting she wants to is because Afghanistan is a very difficult country to sort of visit the US from if you are Afghan. On the official White House website, there's a presidential action restricting the entry of foreign nationals to protect the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. This was allegedly written directly from Donald Trump himself, but like, we all know that's bullshit because when was the last time we actually heard him sound coherent? But regardless, this is an official statement from the White House, so this is, you know, there's nothing fake about this. After reviewing the report described in subsection D of this section, and after accounting for the foreign policy, national security, and counterterrorism objectives of the United States, I have determined to fully restrict and limit the entry of nationals of the following 12 countries: Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. These restrictions distinguish between, but apply to both, the entry of immigrants and non-immigrants. And the reasoning for Afghanistan is this: the Taliban, a specially designated global terrorist group, controls Afghanistan. Afghanistan lacks a competent or cooperative central authority for issuing passports or civil documents, and it does not have appropriate screening and vetting measures. According to the fiscal year 2023 Department of Homeland Security entry/exit overstay report, Afghanistan had a business tourist visa overstay rate of 9.7% and a student vocational and exchange visitor visa overstay rate of 29.30%. The entry into the United States of nationals of Afghanistan immigrants and non-immigrants is hereby fully suspended. It gives reasons for all the other countries too, but we're not going to go into those because that's not what this video is about. Now again, in regards to this guy in particular, there's a TikTok here of things that her and her husband agree on. Those things including politics, late night calls and sleep, cats over dogs, names for their future babies is a disagreement, no pork ever agreement. They don't agree on movies or music, and they both love spicy food. I guess the politics thing here is the thing to pay attention to. Apparently they agree. I'm curious if he agrees with her politics or if she agrees with his politics. Based on what she has said, if everything she's saying is true, the guy does seem like, you know, he seems like a decent person, I guess. But then I can't really say that in full confidence, because if you were a decent person, then you would tell her not to move to Afghanistan. Like, the fact that he is willing to allow her and is almost encouraging her, based on what she said in future TikToks, to move to Afghanistan to see and move in with him, makes me feel as though he doesn't actually love her. Because if you loved someone, you wouldn't let them move to Afghanistan. I mean, there's even music on this TikTok which the Taliban have banned women from listening to, even in the privacy of their own homes. This TikTok would literally get this woman arrested if she lived in Afghanistan currently. In fact, just owning TikTok and posting on it would get you arrested. There's of course a bunch of videos on this account where, like, she paints this relationship out to be a really wholesome one, which again, maybe it is, but it's not relevant and it does not justify this decision to move to Afghanistan.
So my husband writes my grocery list for me sometimes, and English isn't his first language, but this is what he gives me, and I can't even be mad. Like, it's literally just so cute. So, first up, we have ground beef. Ground beef. It took me a minute to get what this was supposed to be, but it's actually supposed to be rotel.
You know what? I don't care. Why is your husband writing you your grocery? You've met one time. He's in Afghanistan. Why is he writing you your groceries? I know long distance relationships exist in that, but I've never heard of something like this happen before. Is this normal in long distance relation? Is it fuck? No, it's not. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I'd like to actually talk about some TikToks that I can use to segue into official Afghani policy, or Taliban policy specifically. POV, a man tells you that you shouldn't get your license because you won't be able to drive. And then there is a picture of her driving. She is a truck driver, by the way. That is her job. I'm sure you're all aware that that is not really something that women are allowed to do in Afghanistan. In fact, not only are women not allowed to drive, but they are also not allowed to be driven unless they are with a suitable male escort. Just whilst we're on this article, it also talks about the reintroduction of public flogging, otherwise known as stoning to death, for women who commit adultery. There's also the fact that beating your wife is completely legal in Afghanistan. Farzana said her husband was quick-tempered and often resorted to beating her. He regularly humiliated her and called her disabled, she said, because her right leg was slightly shorter than the left. She had tolerated the abuse for the sake of their children, but one evening she said his violence went too far. One day I was very sick and I had no energy to cook dinner. When he came home from work, he said, "Now you don't even do the housework." I told him I was sick, but he beat me with a mobile phone charger cable. The marks on my back and arms remained for several days, but I didn't think of taking photos that might one day help me in court. Now, I'm pretty certain the reason why she never thought to take any photos is because under Taliban rule, showing anyone other than your husband any parts of your skin other than little flecks of your eyes is strictly forbidden, and in many cases can actually lead to something called honor killings, which is when women are murdered for showing too much skin. Whilst this is technically illegal in Afghanistan, the system is so oppressive and corrupt and misogynistic that realistically it won't ever really be punished, especially if the perpetrator is someone close to the Taliban or related in any way, shape or form, essentially legalizing the murder of your wife in this country. And whilst using obscene force to beat your wife is in fact illegal, the prison sentence that a man who does this horrible shit will be sentenced with is 15 days. After the attack, she decided to seek an end to the violence by filing for divorce, but when her case reached a Taliban court recently, Farzana said the judge not only rejected her application, but belittled her claims of abuse. When I said he beats me and constantly humiliates and insults me and that I want a divorce, the judge asked, "You want a divorce just because of that? Don't you have another reason?" When Farzana went on to describe the attack she had recently suffered, she said the judge asked whether she had proof of the abuse. When I said no, he told me, "You were young and enjoyed your husband. Now that he is getting older, you are making excuses to divorce him so you can marry someone else. Go back, you have a nice husband, live with him. A little anger and a few beatings won't kill you. Islam allows a man to beat his wife if she disobeys him, to discipline her. Go and don't come back asking for a divorce over such things." According to the code, men are allowed to beat their wives as long as they do not use obscene force defined as causing fractures, wounds, or visible bruises, which the wife must prove in court. For this crime, a man may be sentenced to only 15 days of imprisonment. Akbar said the code gave husbands a license for domestic violence and punishments, short of breaking bones. However, let's be totally clear here, the chances of someone actually being punished or being sentenced with that 15 days of imprisonment, if they do break their wife's bones, is incredibly low. Like, I think this is all smokescreen. The worst part about it is that Afghanistan wasn't even always like this. It has become significantly worse over the past few years. There was a Violence Against Women Act in 2009 that was literally overturned by the Taliban, who legalize the beating of someone's wife, because they thought that beating your wife being an illegal action was just a bit too far. This is, of course, during the roughly 20 years that the US spent in Afghanistan trying to rebuild a more humane state, and at this point in 2009, a major breakthrough, the Elimination of Violence Against Women's Law, was introduced. It defined violence as those acts which cause damage to the personality, body, property, and spirit of a woman. 22 acts of violence were named in this law, including rape, forced prostitution, underage marriage, and deprivation of the right to education, work, and access to health services. All of these have now been rescinded, by the way. Sentences can range from shorter terms of imprisonment to the death penalty. The law provides for measures to protect the rights of victims, namely prosecution of the defendant, access to support center or safe house, access to urgent or free healthcare services, and access to legal aid. Alongside punishment, the defendant could also be required to pay compensation for damages. To implement the law, women's support centers were set up in the provinces of Afghanistan, functioning as protective environments for women fleeing their homes due to violence. After the takeover by the Taliban, which of course preceded the embarrassing withdrawal from the US, under both Trump, who negotiated the deal, and Biden, who finalized it, by the way, this is on both of them, Biden completely underestimated how quickly the Kabul would fail. So of course the Taliban returned pretty much immediately, and Afghan civilians, especially the women, suffered the biggest price for this. Women who had struggled, worked, and studied under the umbrella of democracy and relative freedom for 2 decades lost everything. Women have been protesting continuously and bravely, demanding their rights, but the Taliban's response has been warnings, threats, and beatings. Currently, women are prevented from going to work, studying, and freely moving in society. They have to wear special clothing. As of 22 January 2022, the Taliban published posters obliging women to wear the burqa and the black veil, the chador. The women have responded by saying that the black veil is not part of their culture. The Taliban also prohibits women from wearing attractive colors in public, using perfume, and wearing high heels that make a sound when walking. They haven't even mentioned it here because there's so much to mention, but it is also illegal to wear makeup. The Taliban have additionally taken freedom on the streets away from women. They have imposed limitations on the time and location for protest by women. Women are also banned from traveling without a male family member. This has a huge impact on women's ability to escape abuse. The outlook for women's rights in Afghanistan is currently extremely bleak, and there isn't really a light at the end of the tunnel as of right now, unfortunately. This isn't like the Trump administration, where we know in a matter of years he will be gone and a new president will be elected. There isn't really any sign of this oppression stopping in Afghanistan in the near future. Despite this, the TikToker that we are making this video on is releasing videos giddily and excitedly talking about this move to her husband in videos like this, showing my husband my makeup haul after he finds out I spent $500 on all of it. I would like to show you all what would happen if she was caught wearing makeup in Afghanistan. The order prohibits women from appearing in public without what the hardline Islamist group describes as a proper hijab. Women who fail to comply, including those showing their faces or wearing makeup, will face punitive measures, the directive said. Women in Herat were already wearing the hijab. A woman in the city told RFE/RL's Radio Azadi on the condition of anonymity for fear of retribution, referring to the Islamic headscarf which covers the neck and head, but now the Taliban demands that women wear a face mask too and cover their faces. The Taliban's security forces arrested at least 30 women in the first week after the directive was issued, according to the United Nations. The restrictions led to rare public protests in Herat on June 9th that were violently dispersed by Taliban's forces. At least 2 people were killed and more than 20 wounded in the demonstration, the UN said. But what happens if you disobey these rules? Well, these people weren't even disobeying. In another area of the city, the Taliban attempted to detain 2 young women even though they were wearing a hijab, an eyewitness said. When one of the women argued, officers struck her on the head with the butt of a rifle, causing bleeding. She was taken to a nearby hospital, but the morality police followed her inside and ordered doctors not to treat her. The officers then took her away while she was still bleeding. These are incredibly hard days for the women and girls in Herat, said another woman. The city has fallen silent. Young women are too afraid to leave their homes, and they wouldn't be allowed to do it without a male escort anyway.
These are all the gifts that I got for my husband's family. I got 2 bottles of this face wash, specifically the acne control cleanser, because whenever I met my husband in Pakistan, I had a bottle of this and he absolutely loved it. So he took it home and his aunt also loved it. So I got a couple big bottles to take. So I got these different sets for them. This one's the only one that is in a set of sweater weather. It smells pretty good. It's a winter like scent. I got coconut body butter, the spray, and a body wash set. I love coconut smells, so I'm probably gonna give that to his aunt since I think she's like a coconut girly too. Forever Red. This is a really good scent. I feel like this is like a mature scent, so I'm gonna give this to his mom. So I also got this Bath & Body Works candle in vanilla coconut.
I need to remind myself, because what I remember, I don't think women are actually allowed to wear perfume in Afghanistan. No, they're not allowed to wear perfume. In fact, it's a lot worse than I even thought. In a new directive issued in Herat, the Taliban declared that women who wear perfume and walk past men are to be considered adulterers. Do we remember what punishment the Taliban deems to be reasonable for adulterers, by the way? Sounds to me like many members of the Taliban would find it completely justifiable to stone a woman to death for simply wearing perfume and walking past a man.
Like, really good, but I'm not a big fan of Bath & Body Works candles. Unpopular opinion, but I feel like they don't have any throw to them. Like, the candle can burn for 2 hours and I smell nothing, so I'm probably gonna get Yankee or Goose Creek. These are trending. Of course, I had to pick some up. I think I have some like floating around somewhere else, but I'm gonna keep some and then I'm gonna give some as gifts because, I mean, how could you go wrong with hand sanitizer? I also got these lippies. This one in Rare Beauty. Don't know who I'm gonna give that to. NARS. Too Hot to Hold. Instant Crush by NARS. Anastasia. This one is Sapphirine. Very beautiful. This one I got specifically for his aunt because the very first picture I saw of her, she was wearing cheetah print. So I got this because it reminded me of her. I won this in a giveaway, so I'm going to give this to my husband because I'm just not a Stanley Cup girly. I don't like the color.
Just to be clear, if she's wearing this makeup out in public in Afghanistan and she's not wearing a burqa or a face covering, her life is in danger. Her physical safety is in danger. In fact, from what we've learned, even if she is wearing everything that she is, prescribed to wear and forced to wear, she's still in mortal danger. The top comment on this video is, at this point, I think this is rage bait. I certainly fucking hope that it is. And these comments are true. Even if it is, I think it's disrespectful to get views and money off it. True, absolutely. But still, I really do hope it's rage bait. Like, I'm hoping that none of us watching this video actually think this is real and that she's genuinely moving to Afghanistan. Makeup and beauty and waxes and mascara and nail polish and false nails, those aren't legal in Afghanistan. You have to go to like really underground, illegal, dodgy areas to get those done. Like, they can only be done illegally in secret. And of course, there are a multitude of incredibly brave women that are constantly fighting against the system and pursuing these passions of theirs. After they were banned in 2023, beauty parlors that once provided a safe space for Afghan women were forced underground. It was 9 a.m. in a suburb of Kabul when two women in powder pink burqas ring the doorbell of a drab building. The exterior is a silent reminder of the gloomy atmosphere that prevails in the capital. "Can you let us in?" they whisper. A woman called Sonia opened the door before the Taliban's takeover in Afghanistan in 2021. This 56-year-old hairstylist and beauty salon owner never imagined that one day she would have to work in secret. After letting her clients in, Sonia mechanically unpacks her beauty paraphernalia on the table: makeup palettes, hair dryers, flat irons, waxes, mascara, nail polish, false nails, Coley, and brushes. It's all there. Or coal and brushes. My bad, sorry, I don't know makeup terms. Running the secret salon could cost her a fine, several months in prison, or worse. But Sonia cannot afford to let fear overwhelm her. She does not concentrate, the eyeliner will not be applied properly, and her customers won't come back. This is partially why unemployment is so high for women. So there were over 12,000 salons before the ban, so of course the ban had a devastating impact on an estimated 60,000 women who worked in that sector. One thing that I'm shocked I haven't even mentioned yet, considering this TikToker is, a TikToker who talks online as a hobby, women aren't allowed to speak in public in Afghanistan. The Taliban published a host of new vice and virtue laws last week, approved by their supreme leader, which state that women must completely veil their bodies, including their faces, in thick clothing at all times in public to avoid men into temptation and vice. Yeah, thick clothing as well, by the way. Afghanistan is sweltering hot. Let's see what the temperature's like right now in summer. It's currently averaging around 32 to 33 degrees Celsius. I had one person comment in my last video being like, 35 degrees, that's nothing. Yeah, this isn't Fahrenheit, dude. Again, Americans thinking the whole world is just America. It's early July as well. It only gets hotter as summer goes, because July is like the start of summer in Afghanistan. Yeah, in southern and eastern lowlands in Afghanistan, it often soars past 38 degrees Celsius. And again, women are expected to wear thick, full body clothing over every part of their body, including their face, during this heat. Women's voices are also deemed to be potential instruments of vice and so will not be allowed to be heard in public under the new restrictions. Women must also not be heard singing or reading aloud even from inside their homes. Whenever an adult woman leaves her home out of necessity, she is obliged to conceal her voice, face, and body. From now on, Afghan women are also not allowed to look directly at men they are not related to by blood or marriage, and taxi drivers will be punished if they agree to drive a woman who is without a suitable male escort. When they say say women cannot speak in public as they regard women's voice as a form of intimacy. It is incredibly frightening, yet the whole world acts like this is normal. There have been very few reactions of comments to what is happening, and the Taliban are emboldened by this indifference. It is not only women, but all human beings they are targeting. They must be held accountable. You got Jesus is God in quotation marks, and then right afterwards, Prophet Jesus, PBUH, taught us how to worship the one and only creator. The caption is, my search for truth led me from Christianity to Islam. I don't fucking care what religion you are, dude. There's nothing inherently wrong with Christians or Muslims or Jews or Sikhs or whatever the fuck, but one thing we can all agree on, hopefully, is that all religious fundamentalism is bad. And the Taliban rule under one of the most strict Islamist fundamentalist regimes ever. It'd be like living under a evangelical or fundamentalist Christian society where slavery is completely normalized, which, you know, was a thing that happened at one point. Not even that long ago, in fact.
So I'm going to try to answer all your questions the best I can because I keep getting a lot of comments that kind of relate to these questions. So as for social media, there are a lot of content creators from Afghanistan. They primarily are on Instagram from what I've seen, but I have seen them on TikTok and I've also seen them on Facebook. For example, my husband uses Facebook to advertise jewelry that he sells and the cars that he sells. So as for makeup and products like Bath & Body Works,
Okay, let's be totally clear on that influencer lie there, by the way. There are Afghani influencers for sure, they do exist. However, the majority of them, vastly, are from before the Taliban took over. So you've got this Afghan model here, Aida Shadab, who has over 1 million followers on Instagram, I believe, from memory. Yeah, here she is. Designer, influencer, trader. She's the founder of Aida Boutique. Yeah, and she has done an interview. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but we'll read this wee article here. Aida Shadab, 28, is a model, entrepreneur, and social media influencer. Her stepfather, a deputy governor of the Logar province, was killed by the Taliban 2 years ago. Her mother, a former senator, and sister, also a model, now live in mortal fear under Taliban rule. Aida herself is in Turkey. Presumably she's in Turkey because she knows just how fucking dangerous Afghanistan would be for her. She speaks with Nidhi Suresh about the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan and what it means for her, her family, and fellow Afghans. Our lives are in danger because women who work outside and don't wear scarves, who post their pictures, we are the Taliban's enemy, she says. Aida claims the Taliban had threatened her over her work even before the takeover, but we were just being positive. We had to do it. I mean, we didn't have any other way. We just had to face it. We can't do that anymore. At that time, we had our government, we had our people behind us. Now we don't. We have lost everything. So I don't know what the fuck this TikToker is thinking when she says that there are Afghan influencers just prancing about on TikTok and Instagram. Like, those women just don't exist in the way that she is claiming here. Probably why she didn't use any examples.
Modest makeup and just being modest with your perfume is generally okay. Obviously, there's a lot of cultural differences when it comes to stuff like that, and weddings and celebrations tend to be a bit different. So when it comes to things like traveling or going out, I'm still learning. I will probably be able to tell you a lot better when I'm actually there, but I'm going there specifically to be with my husband, so I will, on a day-to-day basis, I will be spending all my time with him or his family. And as for the gym, my husband's aunt actually goes to the gym, and it's a women's only gym, which tea, because I would prefer that anyway.
Again, just to be clear, women are not permitted to go to the gym in Afghanistan. They're not allowed. There are no women's only gyms unless, again, they are secretive, underground, and illegal. And if that is the case, she is basically snitching on her husband's auntie right now by telling the world that she is, in fact, if this is true, breaking Afghan law. Women can't even go to public parks in Afghanistan.
Respectfully, though, and I can't answer all your questions or give you detailed answers, but I will be able to tell you more once I'm actually there.
She won't be able to tell us anything when she's actually there, by the way.
I'm an American moving to Afghanistan, and this is part 2 of all of the things I got as gifts for my husband's family. This is all for the kids. So first off, I got this like coloring book. I thought it was really cute for the girls. It has stickers where you can decorate the pages and color them, and stencils and stuff built in. And then I got a Spider-Man book for the boys, just a regular coloring book. So I also got some coloring pencils, of course, to go with that, some crayons, and some pencil sharpeners that I thought were cute. I also got some puzzles. I got a 48-piece Toy Story, 350-piece Cottage, 500-piece Colorful Buildings. I tried to get a bunch of puzzles that would be different sizes. I'm not really sure if water balloon fights are a thing in Afghanistan, but I just saw these and I thought, you know, who doesn't love a good water balloon fight?
Well, I really hope those children aren't little girls, because if they are, then you're not really allowed to do that. Girls and women cannot go to public parks, they can't go to amusement parks, they can't go to the gym, they can't go to school if they're above the age of 12 years old. They certainly can't go outside and throw water balloons at each other. Again, they're boys, then they can do it, I guess, but fuck me, I just can't believe that this is an actual thing that you're doing, allegedly. Again, I hope to God that this is rage bait, but I really don't know. And if it's not, I honestly don't know how sorry we should feel for this girl, because all the information is there, everyone is warning her, everyone is telling her how oppressive this regime is. It would be completely heartless of me to say that when bad things inevitably happen, if this is an actual thing that she's planning to go through with, that I wouldn't feel any sympathy for her. Obviously I will, because there's like a set amount of sympathy that I feel for any person in Afghanistan right now, especially women, even if they moved there completely knowledgeable of how fucking horrible it was for some man that they met on Snapchat one time. It's all just so ridiculous that I can't believe it's real, and I hope it's not. But then the videos like this, especially, they sort of convince me a little bit. They give me hope that this isn't a real thing, because it does seem like rage bait. Music's copyrighted, so I won't play it, but the internet told me not to go to Afghanistan on the 17th of August to be with my husband, so I changed it to the 3rd of August because I miss him so much. That is exactly 1 month away, by the way. I hate you with all my heart, and I am so disgusted by you. You know how the women are treated there, and you brainless hoe dare to do all this and proudly post it. When you get stoned, better not cry. I do not agree with this comment. This is ridiculous. I do understand the anger. Like, I really do, because she's fucking laughing about this on this TikTok here. But, like, that is just, it's way too far. Way too far. I don't know why you bother censoring the word hate or hoe or stoned when the comment is this fucking atrocious and mean-spirited. I just hope to God that if this is real, she's safe.
So I'm gonna respond to some of the comments I keep seeing in my comment section, because a lot of them are getting repeated and I just can't respond to all of them. So as for this comment, I keep seeing this comment, and I haven't seen my husband in almost 2 years, so I'm just gonna go where he's at because he can't come to where I'm at.
Dude, I'm sorry. No man is worth this. The guy's, he's great. Maybe he's great. Maybe he's amazing, but it doesn't fucking matter. There's not one person out there for everyone. That's a bullshit, romantic, dumbass thing to say. There's 8 billion fucking people on the planet. You're a young girl. Sometimes a guy is great and you meet and there's amazing chemistry, but it just won't work out for whatever reason. And that's not the end of the world. You can find someone else in a safer environment who makes your heart go pitter-patter, no problem. You met this guy on Snapchat and you've met in person one time, dude. What if you move in with him and you realize that he doesn't clean the fucking dishes? Like those little things they build up and you want to move back to America. Oh no, there's no US embassy. What the fuck are you gonna do? You're stranded in the most oppressive country on the fucking planet, dude. I guess maybe you could try heading over to Pakistan and going to the embassy there. Like, if this is a joke, it's not very funny, dude.
I keep seeing this comment too, so I guess I will go ahead and address it. Yeah, I am half Arab, half Jordanian. And the other half of me is from the US, I guess you could say. My mom is from Kentucky. My dad is full Jordanian, so yep. Okay, so this comment threw me because where did this come from? Like, I don't have children. I've never had children. I don't know where this comment came from. This comment is just absurd. Like, you guys really believe that children are not allowed to play?
Yeah, they're not. Little girls, well, little boys can. Little girls, no, they're not allowed to play outside. Taliban ban women from parks and fun fairs in Afghan capital. The new rule introduced this week further squeezes women out of an ever-shrinking public space. They are already banned from traveling without a male escort and forced to wear a hijab or burqa whenever out of the home. Secondary schools for girls have also been shut for over a year across most of the country. There are no schools, no work. We should at least have a place to have fun, said one woman, who asked to be identified only as Wahida, as she watched her children play in a park through the window of an adjoining restaurant. We are just bored and fed up with being at home all day. Our minds are tired, she told AFP. A few miles away, the Ferris wheel and most of the other rides to Zazai Park, which offers a spectacular view of Kabul, have ground to a sudden halt because of the lack of business. Before this week's ban, it could accommodate hundreds of visitors on days when women brought their children for family gatherings. On Fridays and public holidays, even more people would flock to the park, one of the few attractions in the city. On Wednesday, only a handful of men wandered nonchalantly through the complex. Habib Jan Zazai, co-developer of the complex, fears he may have to close down a business into which he poured $11 million and which employs more than 250 people. Without women, the children will not and cannot come alone, he said. Because children can't leave the house alone, women are not allowed to leave the house without a male escort, so the only way that children are allowed to leave the house is if either the father is with them or the mother and father are with them. So to answer this TikToker's question, Alex, no, the children actually won't be allowed to play unless it is your husband specifically who is going out with them. And even then, there are certain spaces where the daughters are just completely barred from. To subject women to this amount of boredom might not sound as oppressive as some of the other stuff that we have been talking about. However, I think it's up there as one of the worst things that is currently happening in Afghanistan, especially after 20 years of war. These people are being completely beaten down psychologically, and they do deserve the chance to be entertained. It's one of the many great religious lines, actually, is man does not live by bread alone. You know, we need art, we need entertainment. I know that's not an Islamic line, it's a Christian one, but still very much stands here.
Huh? This comment must be why divorce rates are so high in America. That's really all I have to say for now.
I mean, the reason divorce rates aren't as high in Afghanistan is because women will be murdered if they divorce their husband, or they're not allowed to divorce their husband even if they're literally getting beaten to near death by them. Or if they're straight up beaten to death, you can't really file for a divorce then either, can you? In fact, I think the primary way that marriages are ended, in the exceptionally rare case that they are ended in Afghanistan, is through a process called kul, where the woman literally pays the man off to end the marriage. I think it's called kul. No. Okay, hang on. Yes, it is called kul. Form of divorce in which a woman pays her husband to consent to end the marriage. The family of Rukyah's fiancé demanded 800,000 Afghanis, 9,300 Great British pounds, over $10,000. Her family did not have the money. They sold her home and arranged a marriage for her younger sister in the hope of raising money for the settlement. Still, they couldn't raise the full amount. So they lost their house for what? Nothing.
So this is part 2 of me answering your guys' questions in the comments. The reason we can't go to another country is because Afghan passports are just not strong enough. So I really like this comment because it reminded me of a time when I went to Chicago with friends. We took the wrong exit and we were immediately pulled over by police, and we were told to leave the area because it was too dangerous. So yeah, do what you will with that info.
You cannot. I will do what I will with that info, and I think you're fucking crazy. The comparison between Chicago and Afghanistan, it's like comparing a wee box cutter that's used to open packages to a fucking samurai sword in Japan. In fact, fuck that. It's like comparing a wee box cutter to a literal tank.
So as for my day-to-day life, I plan on taking like little day trips with my husband, seeing the nature and the landscape of Afghanistan. His aunt goes to the gym, and I really like going to the gym. I just don't have like a whole lot of time with my job. So I'll probably go with her.
Yeah, you won't have that job in that. You literally cannot, like with the other things, there's an argument to be made, like, maybe like not in all parts of Afghanistan, maybe if you're secretive or not too loud about it, you can get away with certain things, like wearing perfume or whatever, like maybe you can get away with it every now and then. I definitely wouldn't fucking encourage it. But with this job thing, no, you can't drive you cannot drive in Afghanistan. They will not give you a license. And if they catch you driving unlicensed, in fact, if your fucking husband lets you drive unlicensed, sorry, I'm actually getting I really shouldn't be getting this mad. It's like, I don't even want to fucking use the mental energy to get annoyed at this, but shit, dude.
Hang out with all the friends I've met on TikTok, go eat, go shopping, things like that.
Wait, what did she say? Hang out with the friends I've made on TikTok. Again, you won't be able to do that unless your husband is with you.
So this comment I see the most, like out of all of them, this is the one I see the most. I feel like if you have to use a movie or an experience that's almost 30 years old to generalize an entire population, then I feel like you are just
This is it. I can't, like, there's no way, it can't be real. It can't be real. It just can't be real. Like, this person has friends and family, surely. There's no way she doesn't. There's no way. And if she does, there's no chance those people are allowing this. Or if this was my pal, if I had a friend, a lady friend who wanted to fucking visit Afghanistan for a day, for leisure, or like to visit someone they like if it's not some humanitarian trip, which of course I'd probably discourage that as well, but I wouldn't be able to stop them if they really wanted to. I've got a good friend of mine going to Palestine in a month, and of course I'm very worried about her, but I also very much admire the bravery. However, if that same person was going to Afghanistan to meet a boy, I would literally drag them away from the airport. Like, I could not allow that to happen. I would consider myself a abominable, unforgivable, shitty person if I allowed that to happen. At the very least, if I let it happen, I am not allowed to call myself her friend, in my opinion at least. Also, again, women aren't allowed to go to the gym unless it's secret. She's lying here.
The rule of Taliban 2.0 is turning out to be eerily similar to the Taliban of the late 90s. All those initial promises have faded with time, and one gender has been systematically excluded from society and public life. No points for guessing, I'm talking about females. Have a look at this headline. Women in Afghanistan have been barred from gyms. I'm talking about the same gyms with the treadmills and weights. What's the logic behind barring women from them or denying them the right to good health and fitness?
Simple, because usually when you work out, you fucking overheat, and when you're wearing these thick, entire body burqas and headscarves, sometimes it gets a little hot and you sweat out a little bit. Maybe you do a little something like this. Maybe you dare to take your headscarf off for a split second, and then, oh no, what if men are enticed by that?
The Taliban saying the hijab is being compromised. The group saying it has tried segregating men and women in parks and gyms. How exactly? By ordering separate days of the week for men and women. But that has not worked. And now the spokesperson of the Ministry of Vice and Virtue saying, in most cases, we have seen both men and women together in parks, and unfortunately, the hijab was not observed. So we had to come up with another decision, and for now, we ordered all parks and gyms to be closed for women. Sounds like a dark joke. A political satire at best. Except it's neither. This is the dark reality of women living in Taliban's Afghanistan. The Taliban saying it will be visiting gyms and parks regularly to ensure that the facilities are free of women. But the women say the Taliban is making up stories. That women have, in fact, been training separately. You know, none of this is what the Taliban had initially promised. On the 15th of August 2021, the Taliban entered Kabul and took control of Afghanistan. In the weeks that followed, the group promised that women would be given their rights.
Yeah, they did say that. Upon the US withdrawal, they made these very empty promises that they wouldn't be as oppressive as they were in the late 90s. Obviously, when Al-Qaeda was still a thing and Bin Laden was, you know, destroying the Twin Towers and shit. But again, that very quickly, I don't know how the fuck Biden ever thought they were being honest when they said that shit. And Trump, of course, they both either vastly underestimated how weak the Afghan government was that they left there over the last 20 years, or they just didn't care.
You know, the right to education, the right to study. But a year on, the words have not translated into action. If anything, the Taliban have walked in the opposite direction. It started by abolishing the Ministry of Women's Affairs. Then it banned girls from attending school post 6th grade. Today, Afghanistan is the only country in the world where girls are banned from middle school. And this ban has forced parents to marry off young girls. They say it's better that the girls are married off than sit idle at home without a future.
Yeah, a big part of this is probably so that they don't learn how oppressive the regime is and protest in response to it. Obviously, a lot of the women who lived through the 20 years of war with America, when Afghanistan was a little bit more free, had more rights, of course, they know what it was like. They have something to compare the oppressive modern regime to, are protesting. Even to this day, there's a lot of very brave women protesting, risking their lives doing so as well. By limiting the age that women can be educated at, it will very much stop a lot of these protests from happening in the future, because they are literally prohibiting the amount of education that women can receive. There isn't really much that a third party or outside country can do to end regimes like this. It'll be very difficult for a third party or outside country to end a regime like this in Afghanistan. Historically, very oppressive regimes such as this one have only ever been stopped from within the country that they are taking part in. So you've got Romania and Eastern Europe in the late 80s, you've got Tunisia in 2011, which also inspired Egypt in 2011 to do these massive protests from within the country, a lot of workers' strikes, for example. And these revolutions famously did exhibit a lot of change. Like these uprisings from within, they do work, but they require a lot of careful coordination. They require a decent amount of education as well. And it's very tough to carry these out. A lot of the time, social media is totally banned, right? You can't use TikTok. You can't message people without constant surveillance from the Taliban in Afghanistan, for example. Same thing for countries like Iran, by the way. Like the incredibly oppressive, horrible, inhumane Iranian regime is not one that's easy to stop because, you know, Iranian people who plan to protest are constantly being monitored, and they'll usually be stopped in their tracks before they can even get close to doing anything. This is why even though Telegram is like a very common app for a lot of predators to use because it's very discreet, and as a result of that, the distribution of CSAM is regularly talked about as something that happens regularly on Telegram. However, it's also apps like Telegram that play an integral role in facilitating uprisings and protests and revolutions in countries where social media, it's constantly being monitored, and stuff like this is notoriously difficult to carry out. That's not me making a case for the morality or banning of apps like Telegram, by the way. It's simply me trying to say that things are very complicated, and regimes like this are notoriously near impossible to topple down. The record shows, anyone who's read any historical book will know that third parties trying to end regimes usually never really ends well. Even if it's a global superpower like the USA attacking a seemingly much weaker force like Vietnam. We all know what happened when they tried that. They ended up killing millions of innocent Vietnamese civilians. The effects of Agent Orange can still be seen to this day. And it ended up all being in vain as well, because just a few years go by and Vietnamese unrest and the economy falling in Vietnam itself from within ended up changing its policies. They ended up escaping from communism economically and now essentially function as a capitalist society, which was America's entire goal in getting involved to begin with. Obviously, politically and leadership-wise, they skew communist. However, economy-wise, they're very much capitalist-like. So to put it simply, one of the biggest tragedies in human history all meant nothing. That's not me saying that it's impossible for third parties to contribute to, the changing of an oppressive regime. However, it is me making the very factual case and argument that usually oppressive regimes, national oppressive regimes, can only really be stopped from within. Again, usually is a big word there. I am not making any definitive claims.
Taliban insisting that the ban is temporary, but the world knows better. The world knows that Taliban 2.0 is old wine in a new bottle. The group's actions do not force you to believe otherwise. Take, for example, what happened in May this year. The Taliban passed a decree. It said that women must cover their faces in public. What's more, women must also remain in their homes, except when it was necessary for them to step out. But who gets to define necessity in the Taliban's Afghanistan? At least women do not. Women in Afghanistan do not have a say, a voice, or choice.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like how you're allowed to assault your wife unless it's obscene force, but who defines obscene force? The Taliban. You really think the men in the Taliban are going to show a shred of sympathy for any wife that's being beaten? I struggle to think so.
They have been stripped of their basic rights and identity. The Taliban have undone decades of progress. Today, the Taliban controls what women wear, how they travel, with whom they travel, the kind of cell phones that women must carry, and the places they go to. Something as basic as a gym has been made off limits. Parks as well are off limits. There is no answer to how young children will ever get to visit the same parks because now their mothers will not be able to accompany them. But do the Taliban care? Today, Afghanistan ranks 156th out of 156 countries in the Global Gender Gap Index 2021. 5.5 million women in Afghanistan are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance, as are 6.3 million girls. But 77% of Afghan civil society organizations have no funding and are no longer running any projects. But even talking about this crisis is a big no-no in Afghanistan. The Taliban have issued orders excluding women from the media. TV stations cannot show women's faces. They are not allowed to put forward women's perspectives or even talk about women's needs. In May this year, the Taliban ordered women journalists to cover their faces when they are on air. So much for Taliban 2.0. You know, headlines like these are a question mark against the judgment of countries who encouraged the international community to engage with the Taliban, who insisted that the world believe the Taliban's promise for a change.
Ridiculous. I mean, yeah, so much for never negotiate with terrorists, eh? Something that Trump has echoed constantly, only to literally negotiate with the Taliban in 2018 or 2019. What was it? Yeah, that was it. It was in Doha. I do remember this. But no negotiating with terrorists. No, he would never do that. Again, though, just to be totally clear, because I do have to be fair here, Biden is not innocent of this either. I feel like someone who's, you know, I've spoken relatively positively of Biden a few times on this channel, so it's only fair that I bring that up. So we got some videos like this, of course. Our second picture together. It's just pictures with her alleged Afghani husband. This is him 7,000 miles away, I guess. I should have taken more pictures when I had you. This was 12 hours ago I was recording as well. There is a lot of misinformation here in the comments too, talking about Alex Sonny's daughters, which she doesn't have any children biologically. You know, I really do wonder if this is rage bait. Survey is on the BDS and they're saying that they're not going to use it anymore because they're pro-Palestine, of course. They say that their husband is also pro-Palestine. So, you know, that kind of makes me, again, this is an assumption for sure, but that kind of leads me to believe that she's relatively left-leaning, at least in her political values. But then I just don't understand why on earth she thinks this is a good idea. But then I also don't understand why on earth she would think it, like, deem it necessary or appropriate to rage bait either. The fact that she has views that, like, I agree with and that I see where she's coming from with makes this worse in a way, because it makes me feel as though she's being 100% genuine in her desire to move to Afghanistan. There's a full explanation here about her husband's visa being denied as well, so I guess we should watch this.
Get ready with me while I tell you why my husband failed his immigration interview. We started this process about a year ago. It was January 20th to be exact when we filed our first paperwork. Honestly, we're one of the lucky ones when it came to the first stage, which is the I-130 form that you have to fill out. We got really lucky because there was like an exemption for Afghan immigrants, and we bypassed a lot of the time that it takes to get through that stage, which is normally about a year, and it costs about $650 to $700 to file that form. Exemption was that Afghan immigrants got to bypass that. Our form was processed within 2 days. We got an approval within 2 days, which is almost unheard of. Also, let me go ahead and say that we are actually extremely lucky given the circumstances to other people, like compared to other people who have gone through this immigration process. And we are extremely grateful that we are in a good place to be able to kind of afford all of the forms and not take a huge financial loss, because people lost their lives through this immigration process and the travel ban. Nonetheless, we still lost thousands of dollars. The forms, just in the forms alone, we probably invested about $1,000 to $1,500. I don't remember the exact amount. The biggest expense was probably just paying for his visas. He's from Afghanistan, so it's extremely hard for him to get a visa. It's extremely expensive. There's only a few countries that actually allow for Afghanis to get a visa and travel to the country. As you may know or you may not know, Afghanistan doesn't have a U.S. embassy. Once they pulled out of Afghanistan in 2021, it was closed down. So a lot of Afghanis will interview in third-party countries. I think Qatar is one of them. Pakistan is the biggest one. Tajikistan was one. At the time, Tajikistan was moving a lot faster than Pakistan because Pakistan was several months backlogged due to COVID. His Tajikistan visa was about $1,400. So we lost, once they changed the law, we lost the money on that. The $1,400 was just gone, like poof. Like I might as well have taken $1,400 and lit it on fire, because they changed the law to where Afghanis could only interview in Pakistan. So then we got his visa to Pakistan, which was also another $1,200.
That $1,400 could have come in handy if you ever want to divorce this man, by the way. That would cover about maybe 15% of what is needed to initiate a divorce in Afghanistan and have a chance of it being accepted. But this is the thing, like, I hate this. This is the worst video of everything I've seen so far, because it seems the most real and least rage baity. Like, there's no irony here. There's no, like, obvious signs of rage bait. It's just her telling a story that sounds real. Like, everything she's saying sounds plausible, and that fucking terrifies me. It really, really, really scares me, dude, because the last thing I want is for any of this to be real.
So a little bit cheaper, but it's still pretty pricey considering it's literally just a 6-month visa. So that's it. We're ready for his interview.
He has his visa. He's all prepared to go to Pakistan. And we get his interview letter about mid-November. And then the news broke and...
You know what it is as well? It's because she does look Middle Eastern. Like, she's half Jordanian, half American, and it shows. Like, you can very much see the half Jordanian. So if she goes to Afghanistan and people take a weak glance at her, they might not see her as like an American, right? If she's not talking, which she won't be because you're not really allowed to do that in Afghanistan. I know Afghanistan's not in the Middle East, by the way, but what I'm saying is, like, you know, a weak glance at her, if someone told you she was from Afghanistan, you might believe it, like half Afghani, right, whatever. If she was a white woman, I think I'd be less worried about her safety, because white women and travelers and people on their holidays and stuff are treated very differently in Afghanistan. They're not treated well, don't get me wrong, but they are treated differently. They're seen as like a strange novelty, if that makes sense.
At the beginning of December, that they were going to indefinitely suspend Afghani immigration visas all across the board. We were extremely sad, we were confused, and we really did not know what was going on. We were crossing our fingers hoping that it would be blocked, but it's still in place. We didn't know if he should go to his interview or not, but at that point, like, we'd already spent the money on his visa, his plane tickets, and everything that came with that, so we didn't really have a choice. We were kind of backed into a corner. He attended his interview in Pakistan on January 21st, as I mentioned earlier, and they did give him his 221G, which basically is, you know, his denial. Fine, it's supposed to be a final denial, but we're hoping that once the ban is lifted with the next president, most likely, that he will be able to just get his visa stamped and not have to go back through the whole process again, because the immigration process takes about 2 to 3 years on average, so it could be longer than that.
Yeah, if you are really devoted to this guy and you don't have it in you to find another man who makes your heart go pitter-patter, then you should have fucking waited. You should have waited. You don't go to Afghanistan, dude. You just don't. You don't go there. You just don't. Even if you're a man, you shouldn't go there. It's fucking dangerous.
At the end of the day, my husband was denied not because of anything that he did or anything that was on his background, but because of, like, policy and the dumbass president. Like, sorry to say it, but it's true. Also, my husband is a really good man. Like, he worked for UNICEF and he provided, you know, a lot of support for homeless children in his country, in Afghanistan. He is literally twice the man that Donald Trump could ever be. So now my husband is back in Afghanistan and we are deciding on what we want to do next. I am a dual citizen, so I have citizenship in America because I was born here, and I also have citizenship in Jordan, so we don't know if maybe, like, we could start an immigration process in Jordan, but we honestly don't want to wait for another immigration process. And the other option is for me to just move to Afghanistan. We can't keep waiting for the laws to change or stalling our lives any longer than what we already have.
Yeah, just to be, this is the 31st of January, this video as well, way before any of this went viral, way before it went viral. So there's even less reason for this to be rage bait or, like, you know, lies or exaggeratory. Just insane. It's fucking insane, dude. It's really scary. Like, this is terrifying. I'm honest to God horrified for this woman.
I am not gonna let somebody like Donald Trump determine the rest of our lives and our future. Hopefully we get some more clarification within the next few months, but I don't foresee that happening, so I definitely think that Afghanistan is going to have to be the move for me, unfortunately, but I am very excited to see my husband because it has been so long and married couples should not have to spend years and years apart. So follow along for my journey and hopefully we can figure something out within the next few months.
Could you not at the very least have just gone for like 2 weeks? Did you have to move there? Again, I would not recommend even going for a fucking hour, but that would be better than moving there semi-permanently until the next fucking president comes along. Which is not even, you know, it's not even confirmed that you'll be able to move to the US permanently with your husband when the next president comes along. Like, who fucking knows what the country's gonna look like in 2 years? I'll tell you what doesn't help as well. It's fucking videos like this. I'll let this video play out. These videos fucking, they boil my blood.
All day in Afghanistan, we're in Kabul. I absolutely love this city. It's such a cool city. We went to a coffee shop to have an iced mocha. Coffee shops were actually banned by the Taliban, but we managed to find one, except I was told that a lot has to do now with the financial situation in Afghanistan and the poverty, and that people can't afford coffee rather than the Taliban's rules. We went to the Blue Mosque. Sometimes women are allowed in, sometimes they're not. It really depends. Anyway, so today we were allowed in, which was really good because it's such a beautiful mosque. Although I definitely prefer the one in Mazar Sharif. Sharif, which is the most incredible mosque I've ever seen in my entire life. We went to the bird market, and also no one hassles you here, which is something I can't say about a lot of countries I've traveled to as a female. We got our photo taken at this 100-year-old camera, which was a very cool souvenir to have. Also, there are a lot of women on the streets, and we went to a shopping center that was filled with only women, but I purposely haven't filmed them, / I've cut out clips that also include women. I was able to take my headscarf off for lunch today because the owner said it was okay, and all the men in the restaurant said they'll keep a lookout for me. Then we went to some of the jewelry and gold stores. There are so many gold stores here, and Afghanistan actually has some of the best emeralds and rubies in the entire world. Oh, and this rug really summarizes some of the people's views on Americans. It's bringing freedom and democracy to an oil-rich country near you. Found this vintage watch shop which had all vintage Omega watches, and then I finally had Afghani ice cream. It was so good. Okay, so love you, bye.
Just imagine for a second, you're an Afghani woman. This is filmed in August, by the way, the middle of summer, 35-degree, sweltering hot, boiling heat. You're wearing your thick, full body coverings. You're overheating, you're ill, you're in dire need of humanitarian aid. You're unable to speak without being fucking punished. And you're witnessing this obnoxious white girl prance about your fucking city with an iced mocha from Starbucks, giddily and excitedly talking about how amazing the country is for women because they don't get catcalled by people. You're having to witness this fucking privileged, oh my goodness, this privileged fuck encourage women to go to Afghanistan for a fun little holiday. What is this girl's account? Chloe Baradinsky. You're a fucking shithouse, dude. You need to do better. You need to do better. But yeah, you can see the propaganda's working. My dream date. Cute. People in the comments seem to love this shit. My #1 bucket list country. Fuck, dude. Alright. I think I need to end this video before I burst a fucking blood vessel. I'll end this video with a book I read in my first year of university that I would strongly recommend to anyone interested in the current oppressive regime that the Taliban rules Afghanistan under. It's called Return of the Taliban Afghanistan after the Americans left. It's by Hassan Abbas. I'm not saying you'll have an exorbitant amount of fun reading this book, but it is very informative. And there's not really a lot of great literature talking about the return of the Taliban. There's a lot of books about, like, the Taliban historically. There's one called No Good Men Left, I think. That's a good book. This one's a better read in my opinion, but it's just not as applicable to the current Taliban regime. But if you're into reading and learning history or learning about the regime, then I'd recommend both, honestly. But yeah, with all that being said, hopefully you learned something in this video. I really wish for this woman's safety, and I hope everything turns out okay, really. I really do hope it is rage bait. I hope she doesn't move to Afghanistan, but I suppose only time will tell. For now, though, that's it, and I'll catch you all in the next one.